Good evening, ladies and gents, wherever you may be around the world, and welcome to Splendid Isolation number 232. As always, to give people time to join the scream, etc., I am going to start us off with a tune.
Take up the white man's burden, send forth the best ye breed. Go bind your sons to exile, to serve your captives' need. To wait in heavy harness on flooded folk and wild. Your new God's sullen peoples have devil and have child. Take up the white man's burden, in patience to abide, to veil the threat of terror and check the show of pride. By open speech and simple, 100 times made plain, to seek another's profit and work another's gain. Take up the white man's burden, the savage wars of peace. Fill full the mouth of famine and bid the sickness cease. And when your goal is nearest, the end for others sought, what's love and heed and folly, bring all your hopes to naught. Take up the white man's burden, no tawdry rule of kings, but toil of servant sweeper, the tale of common things. The ports ye shall not enter, the roads ye shall not tread. Go make them with your living and mark them with your dead. Take up the white man's burden and reap his old reward. The blame of those ye better, the hate of those ye guard. The cry of those ye humor are slowly towards the light. Why brought ye us from bondage, a loved Egyptian night? Take up the white man's burden, ye dare not stoop to less, nor call too loud on freedom to cloak your weariness. By all ye cry or whisper, by all ye leave or do, the silent, sullen people shall weigh your gods and you. Take up the white man's burden, have done with childish days, the lightly proffered laurel, the easy ungrudged praise. Come down to search your manhood through all the thankless years. No age with give or wisdom, the judgment of your peers. Take off the white man's burden through all the thankless years.
And that was, of course, the excellent Chris Gard. If you like good music, go and check out his YouTube channel. He's a good musician, and he's on our side of politics. Good evening to my guests this evening, Aaron Hook, Mitch, AI, and Ataman. How you going this evening, gents?
Oh, I'm all right.
Same old.
We had a
H8.
Cool. We had a big stream last week because we had Morgoth on as a very welcome special guest. Hopefully he'll come back on at some stage. I am, by the way, just for people in the audience, I do work on trying to get some special guests to join this stream, but of course they've got to be free, and people are busy. So anyway, obviously later on today we are going to be talking about the online harms bill, which is already being used by the British government to censor not pornography for children, but political news, and particularly protests against mass immigration. Also, I've seen one guy who was doing tweets about Richard the Lionheart that was getting censored by the British government. So I guess St. George has got no chance in that case. So we will certainly be talking about that, but as always, I'm gonna start people off by asking if they have a specific topic to start us off with, and I'm gonna just go around clockwise, and I'll ask Aaron Hook first. Aaron, did you have a topic to start us off with?
Yes, I do. It's it's a development from the Labour Party, which is actually quite good for our side, which is the establishment of that Jeremy Corbyn Zara Sultana party, which hasn't yet got a name. Though I would ask everybody on the panel and everybody watching this from now on, regardless of what it does get called, refer to it as Jezebel, just because it's funny.
I've heard people suggest it be called Britain Last or something like that.
Yeah. Yes. That would actually be a very good name. So, for those who don't know, this started a few weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, I think it was, when Zara Sultana, who was elected as a Labour MP, she was suspended. She had the Labour whip suspended some time ago because she rebelled against the Labour Party on a welfare matter. She's a Islamo-leftist, and she then left. She suppressed the Labour Party and formed and then she found the Labour Party and put out a statement saying that she and Jeremy Corbyn were going to form a party together. This came as something of a surprise to Corbyn, who didn't seem to be aware this was going on, because he then put out a statement which was a bit he was a bit surprised by this. But they have now formed this party, which they have a website called Your Party. When people have been suggesting this is their name, they've both been coming out and saying it's not that. They've been trying to proclaim that they have a free membership sign-up is somehow beating reform, even though because they have had something like nearly 250,000 people sign up for this party, though it's for free, or not reform, which has got, for all its criticisms that we have of it, it at least has about 250,000 paying members, which is a big difference. Now, the reason why this is going to be a good thing for people outside of politics is that it is going to royally screw up the Labour Party. Many of you for the British people watching, will know that at the last general election we had a couple of Gaza independents elected. These were Muslims who effectively took away votes from the Labour Party and beat a number of Labour MPs. And they came close to beating a couple of Labour MPs who are now cabinet ministers, most notably Wes Streeting as the Health Secretary. And Corbyn obviously got elected as an independent at that general election as well, and he has been working closely with these MPs, and it's likely that these MPs will probably join this party as well. And so you then have a party which can draw on that Muslim support, with Corbyn, who does have as much as he's a bloody awful MP and individual, he does have a national profile at his head, and it's going to draw away those Muslim voters, and it's going to split the Labour vote even further, which will support reform getting in and support essentially ensuring the Labour Party has an even greater defeat at the next general election. And it's also screwed up a plan that people at, say, the New Statesman and the Favourite Society were discussing, of a sort of anti-reform progressive alliance where Labour would sort of form a rough electoral coalition to ensure reform wouldn't win the next general election with the Lib Dems and maybe the Greens. And Labour will neither let Corbyn be a part of this coalition, nor will Corbyn want to be a part of it, which means that's dead in the water before it even started. And also, it's buggered up the Green Party because they were the party destined to sort of get these sort of Islamic Gaza votes, and now that's going to go to Corbyn's party. So the British political left is about to fall apart, shall we say, electorally speaking, at the next election, and probably in the next couple of certainly in the next election, but certainly over the course of the next couple of local elections.
Good to see History Bro in the chat. Good evening, mate. You're always welcome to join one of these streams if you want. And I would just say to you, History Bro, our Wednesday stream is going to be Wellington's British Army. So if you're interested in joining that, DM me on X, on Twitter. Yeah, any comments on what Aaron had to say there from other guests?
I mean, yeah, the Jezebel, as it should be called. Yeah, it is a funny one. It was kind of, because didn't he come out in his comment, Corbyn, and be like, this isn't something we'd like formally decided on yet, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's kind of jumping the gun there a bit, I suppose. I mean, like, yeah, as you say, like the membership thing is kind of a moot point because you know, they're going to be it's free membership versus paid membership. It's just not really a contest. But at the same time, it's like they're going to be able to call on, you know, this, because like the you know, the whether you want to call it the Pakistani or the Muslim voting bloc that Labour has had up until this point, that's just been starting to stab them in the back over various by-elections all over the place. It's a funny block because it's like, because of the way they run things, it's kind of like it's a block they can really draw on quite heavily, and it's like a very solid little voting block. But it's also like how it's hard to gauge how almost militant it is in a sort of like political fashion. You know, sometimes you can. I mean, there was a topic I was going to bring up later about polling. Sometimes, you know, it's like when Boris always said, "Oh, you know, politics is warfare by other means." You know, there's lots of criticisms to be made of that statement, but also like there's a you know, two soldiers on the battlefield are not strictly always equal. In the same way that two voters are not always equal either. You know, everyone does get their one vote, but you know, the propensity for certain voting blocks to go out and stomp the streets, or even to proselytize for their chosen party, that varies group to group, and it's sometimes hard to gauge how that levels with that particular community, where it goes, you know, in the long term.
Yeah, I just don't disagree with you at all, Alan. Low for Sheffield makes the point that Jess Phillips might have a major problem like the next time, because she was only about 900 majority in Birmingham, where she came from, where she was running.
And Miles was like a disabled guy with his cerebral palsy. I think the guy had, and like, that was Workers' Party. But I mean, you've got Jezebel, you've got Workers' Party, and then you've got the Greens, and also these independents. It's going to be a case of that vote is diluted by. I mean, we talk about
but don't forget, Mitch, don't forget they're hoping to make up for this partly, the Labour Party, by letting children vote, by letting 16-year-olds vote.
Which I don't think is going to go the way they want it to.
I really hope you're right, Armin.
Well, I mean, they produce these polls that show that like the 16-year-olds are going to vote this way or that way. But then when you dig into the methodology behind those polls, you end up with things like that is the result of that, let's say, the 20% that said they would vote or that they should vote, which is not the same as saying that that's the actual way that those people are going to vote. But you know, and it's backfired everywhere else they've tried it. But
I think Ataman has a point, because I remember when I was at school during the 2010 election, the schools in our local area did like do mock elections, and most of them, like at the time, because it was in the local newspaper, there was like a few like pearl clutching hysteria around it. The BNP either came second or first. Now, so now, of course, that wasn't anywhere near reality. But the thing new is, at the time, it was seen as radical, and I remember at the time even going, yeah, I'd vote BNP at the time. I didn't really believe it, at the time, but I just said it to, upset my, like the left wing teachers and everything, which did upset them. The boomers and everything. They all got a bit upset about it. But the point is, I honestly think the youth are more radical. And the thing that is, and I always go back to sort of what Bowden says, the way that the right wings, it has to be, it has to be cool, it has to be imaginative, it has to be creative. And I think the left don't really have that. I don't even think Corbyn has that. I mean, I think Corbyn had it. I think there was genuine energy back in 2015, 2016, 2014, 2015 when he came in, but I don't think it's really there now. The youth there, I think, in reality, it's kind of it's going to just be more like third worldism. From their point, it's just going to be like minority group interests. I know they're making a big deal that they got 300,000 people signing up. Well, yeah, but Steve Laws signed up for a laugh. There'll be people who'll be signing up for in the Labour Party and other reasons.
It
I
was
signed
like,
up.
yeah, I was
I
going to
was
say,
going
it
to
was
say I was
like
going to do a
Atterman said,
competition to
it's
name the
free.
party, so I
Yep.
signed up.
Yeah, if it's free, what have you got to lose? I mean,
I'll tell you what, while we're on stream now, I'll sign up now. I'll be the
Well, we were
want
being asked before we started, did we have a license for this stream, which of course we're going to come on to in a bit. But anything else to say on this subject by anybody, or shall I move on to Mitch and ask if he's got a first subject?
Well, I mean, just a little bit on the youth vote as well. Like, they're not always completely wrong, but the left likes to have this sort of mythology where they think that like the youth, the future is on their side, which is hilarious, of course, because they're against like the generational transference of like spirit or intergenerational responsibility and hereditary, whatever. Yeah, so it's kind of a bit of it's one of those sort of weird things they sometimes do where they sort of tell on themselves by falling back to their sort of base nature, which has a sort of right-wing bias, and they don't, and they attempt to deny this, but so they kind of always mythologize this with themselves in like like the wisdom of the child. They'll always do this thing where they'll go, oh look, this kid said this, therefore Trump owned or whatever. And sometimes they are right. Kids are, after all, 16-year-olds have just spent like most of their living years up to that point within a government institution,
getting propaganda. Yes.
Yeah. So and they can also be like shockingly optimistic and young and a bit dumb, but it's like I mean AI brought up about the BNP, but the BNP had a massive presence on like university campuses back in the day. You used to, if you were going to go and see far right graffiti somewhere, it was on a uni campus once upon a time.
Well, also, look, I'm much the oldest guy here, I'm sure. And it's a bit like Richard Tice doesn't care that real Indigenous Anglo-Celtic Brits will become a minority by 2050 because he thinks he'll be dead, which I'm sure he will be. I certainly will be, but you lot won't. And if we're talking about 16-year-olds, they certainly won't. So, presumably these young people are sensible enough to see that, if they want to get married and be able to afford to buy a house and all that sort of stuff, mass immigration needs to stop, basically.
I mean, I will say as well that if you go on somewhere like TikTok, it is awash with basically, funny enough, if you go on any social media where the average age trends downwards, it's not the overwhelming majority, but you usually find that there is a very strong sort of base underlayer of sort of right-wing content. And what you'll find as well, if you go on places like TikTok, you'll find tons of these videos that have been filmed in classrooms on phones of like young girls getting into arguments with their teachers about like trans people and stuff like that. And, you know, and the teachers always trying to like shame them, and it's hilarious because, you know, you see so many of these videos where these teachers are just getting like BTFO'd by teenagers, you know,
Well,
in arguments where they should really have the upper hand.
If you were a young girl, you should be against all the trans stuff, because it totally ruins your chances in sport, for example.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, there was a story that went around a while back of a girl that got in trouble, I think, with Prevent because she was a vegetarian, so she was against halal slaughter, and this sort of got her in trouble. But supposedly, you know, at that time, everyone in the classroom was sort of on her side, and the teachers were complaining that they were like struggling to keep order and stuff like that. So, you know, the mythologizing that they do of young people is not always wrong, but they don't quite have the nail hit on the head.
Ataman, in the culture though, and this is something even I identified when I was at school, when I was about 15 or 16, when I was sort of being trying to be like edgy sort of edgy boy with supporting the BNP and stuff. Is that the entire like boomer culture? Because all the my teachers were basically boomers, right? They loved the 60s, they loved all of that, uber boomers and massive lefties. And the entire society is based upon revolting against authority, revolting against the sort of hierarchical figures. And if you have a society where you embed that as the sort of natural norm, and you can argue, because I know there's people that, and I know Peter Hitchens argues that's not what the 60s were like, and that's like a mythologized revision by sort of left-wing progressive boomer types. But whether that's true or not, it doesn't matter. The fact that that is what has been distilled, and then when the youth end up sort of playing, sort of following that naturally through, they end up revolting against them, and that's what happened. And I think that's what, as it's coming down, and let's be honest, Corbyn isn't a radical. He isn't a radical. I honestly, when I look at the sort of radical left-wing groups and left-wing groups that they call them radicals, they're not really. I mean, all they are is basically the establishment position on most things, but just a bit further, just a bit more aggressive. I mean, all of them are for equality, for example. I mean, I would say a real radical thing is to be against that. That sort of the real radicalism is on the right, and that's one problem that they're going to have to face, because the reality is the youth, and the reason why so many, and they're so worried about the youth being indoctrinated by the right. That's one of the reasons why this bill that we talked about earlier was introduced, was because of that, because they know that we can't really win in the culture. We can't really win in the dialectic. Well, we're just going to go back to old sort of, persecution tactics, and that's where we are.
Yeah.
Aaron, any final thoughts on this subject?
Just to say that, as everybody else has mentioned on so far, I do think they are making a big mistake in thinking that young people are going to vote left. They're not going to. They're going to vote very much on the right, and I know that
if they're sensible, yes. If they're sensible,
no, I think they're only going to vote that way, because I remember during the EU referendum, I had a friend of mine who had a son in the local secondary school, and his son was telling them that if they in fact had a mock referendum, and they overwhelmingly voted leave. Yeah, and so I have no doubt it's going to be huge numbers of them will, if they ever get the vote. I personally don't think they should have the vote, but I think the voting age should be raised to 21. But if they do get the vote, I think they're overwhelmingly going to vote to the right.
Yeah, if I had my way, voting age would be 21, unless you join the British Armed Forces, in which case you should be allowed to vote at 18, but only if you actually join. Because that should be a reason to join. If you're an 18-year-old, then and you're in the British Army or the Royal Navy or the RAF, by all means, yes, you should get the vote. But in general, it should be 21, if you ask me. Mitch, did you have a first subject for this evening?
I'm trying to think. Maybe I have two, but I'm probably going to. Back on Sunday, Japan had a load of elections, and a very right-wing party called Sanseito won 15 seats. Basically, it's called the House of Councillors. Basically, it's kind of like the Japanese House of Lords, but it's not like in the House of Lords where you have to be appointed there; you get voted in, which I'm not particularly fan of. But yeah, and
the nationalists did quite well, didn't they, Mitch?
Yeah, 15 seats. Now, if you got 20 seats, then they could set agendas. So they fall short of that. But that's their first election in terms of entering that particular chamber. So they did fairly well. I got mixed thoughts about that party because on one hand, I'm just like, okay, I want Japan to stay up Japanese. I'm quite Japanophilic, yada, yada, yada. But then you got the main guy in it who he is very revisionist around World War II. And that's the one thing about Japanese that's a bit annoying. Like they'll play fast.
Yeah, I do get what you're saying there, Mitch. The Japanese treatment of POWs and stuff in World War II was appalling. On the other hand, I think it's a good thing that Japan has not suffered the enormous guilt that has been pushed on the Germans for World War II. So swings and roundabouts. The guys who I knew as a young guy who fought against the Japanese are mostly gone now. So
my grandfather did.
Yeah,
he wasn't too keen on them. Yeah.
No, one of my great uncles was a Royal Marine, and he fought in the Far East, and he couldn't stand the bastards.
Yeah.
But like I said,
Yeah, my grandfather. We were in a hotel restaurant, and he saw and I was quite young at the time, and he was in his late 80s and stuff, and he saw a Japanese family walk in. He chucked his knife and fork down on the table, stood up, and announced that we were leaving.
Yeah, look, and I understand that. I mean, if you read the histories of World War II, and certainly if you read histories of World War II prisoners of war from Britain and Australia and what have you, you can perfectly understand that attitude. But like I said, most of those guys are dead now. And I'm with Mitch on I hope Japan stays Japanese in the same way I want Britain to stay British,
Yeah, because that's one thing about it, is you notice that a lot of our elites are now clamping down hard on Japan. There's a lot of pressure upon the Japanese to have loads of immigrants because they can't have, let's say, for example, you can't have, let's say, tourists doing photos and videos like Tokyo or Osaka, where you just have peaceful streets, homogenous society, high trust, and whatnot. You can't allow that to exist as a massive contrast to what we in the West are doing at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, compare Tokyo to London, and Tokyo is a much bigger city, by the way, but it's much more peaceful.
Yeah, and clean. That's one of the things. One of the things that pisses me off so much about seeing travel vlogs in China or Japan and stuff, or Singapore, is that the streets are clean, and this is the most basic standard any civilization should aspire to, because anyone can do that. Anyone can have clean streets, but we can't, and that pisses me off so much.
Yeah, I remember one time there was this Indian fella having an argument with a Burmese fella. They're going, "Oh well, you Burmese are poor," and it's like, and the guy literally just shows it on the street, going, "My streets are clean. If I go on Google Maps onto like a random Indian street, it's always
Yeah.
a massive tip." Like that's the thing.
The trouble is, random British streets are starting to look like that because we've imported these people.
Yeah, but, I mean that's. Yeah, but that's the thing. What it's kind of like, you know, you give Indians go, "Oh well, they're West cleaner because they're richer," and I go, "Okay, but India's richer than Burma, but the Burmese are much cleaner." Like, I'd rather go to like, was it Rangoon or whatever they call the city these days? I'd rather go there than Mumbai, for example. Yeah, and it's
any day of the week for sure. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Mitch. Before I throw this open to the other guests, I just want to do a bit of shilling. Guys, if you want to support the channel, you can do so via Entropy, which is pinned at the top of the chat, and any donations we get, and you can also ask Super Chat questions there that we will answer towards the end of the stream. But any donations I get basically just go on paying StreamYards and X, so we can stream there. That's like, you know, I don't get enough donations to make a profit out of it. All it goes is towards making what I have to pay out slightly less. So if you want to do that, please do. And also, please like the stream and subscribe for more content. All right, guys. Any comments on what Mitch has brought up here?
I think, yeah, just hope the best for them, really. You know, it's like we can't, it's like with all of, like, it's the same with all of Europe, really. Like, we all face much greater enemies than us, than each other.
Yes, I agree totally, Tharian.
I think as like a Europe-wide thing, and I saw this yesterday, I should say, with that Geert Wilders, who was jokingly saying, "Oh, because France is, you know, recognizing Palestine as a state," and he was like, "Well, it's okay. All the Muslims in Europe can go to you know, the southern part of France, and that can be the new Palestinian state." And it's like, we shouldn't be talking about Europeans as this, because we are. I mean, Europe is that superstructure civilization. I mean, it used to be called Christendom, but we are all Europeans. We all have a stake in European civilization, and just to be flippant about it, and to have like this absolute treacherous nature to European civilization, I find disgusting. I find it absolutely disgusting, and for the sake of a country that's barely 80 years old.
Yeah.
France has existed. I mean, France. You know, the French. You know, it goes back to Clovis. You have the Gallic Roman populations that live there before. I mean, it's a continuous civilization of pre-Christianity and, you know, into what's, you know, into post-Christianity and Christendom. The English people go back before recorded history.
Oh,
this isn't something, and this when I sorry, Andrew, but when I see these sorts of people just go, "Oh yeah, well we'll move them here, move these people." Our countries aren't, you know, some fucking mini game on a Steam Deck.
No, I agree, and I was just going to say, AI, that you know, a week or so ago, we were talking about Britain's 1029th anniversary, and that is England's 1029th anniversary, and that's, if you put it at the latest possible date, which was when Athelstan united all the kingdoms. I mean, you could really take it back quite a long time before that if you wanted to.
I was on a stream a couple of weeks ago, another stream, and there's a guy in chat saying I would normally be his natural enemy because he was Irish, but he was agreeing with everything I said. And this is it, yeah. Like we might have disagreements in the past, but again, it's the same enemy we both have. I'd gladly stand with any Irishman today. against
100%.
what we face now.
Yeah, if they're fighting against Ireland being taken over by third world migrants, then yeah, absolutely, their fight is our fight in that regard.
Aaron, do you want to come back on that?
Yes, I think I will. Their fight is not our fight if they are committed. If they are opposed to third world immigration and they want a united Ireland, that is not an ally of mine. And also,
No.
And I will also say, Duke, and to everybody else in the stream, we are British and English. We are not European. We are a civilization unto ourselves.
Yeah, no, I'd agree.
These islands have made something distinct from those on the continent.
Totally agree. I'm the last person who's going to disagree with that, mate. But I did make the point that when I said I agreed with Farium that I would happily stand with an Irishman who was against Ireland being taken over by third world migrants. But yes, obviously, if he's desperately anti-British, then he can get fucked for sure.
Like the idea of us being like a Minas Tirith, like this light in the darkness against a brown Europe. I mean, there's a romanticism to that, but I don't have so much hatred that I wish that upon the rest of Europe.
I don't think Aaron wishes bad things on Europe. He's just saying we're a bit different, which we are. We're an island. We're an island people.
Yeah. Yes, it's not a matter of me hating Europe. I certainly think that they are inferior to us. They are, as Kipling said, the lesser breed without the law. And that Kipling was referring to Europeans. He wasn't referring to natives. But I do not hate them. But I do greatly disagree with this idea of lumping us in with them as us being, quote unquote, some bland members of Europe. We are not.
Yes.
We are a distinct civilization.
You're right. But I think like it's just my opinion is just like a temporary alliance to deal with the current invasion, like the Crusades a bit, and then we can go back to fighting each other again, like the good old days.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Adaman, anything to say about
that? No, nothing from me.
All right. Mitch, any final thoughts on your subject in terms of the Japan National Party doing quite well?
I would say because with Japan, like they've started as they're getting a lot of pressure. I mean, for example, there's like a few thousand Kurds who are just causing massive problems, and you also got that what's his name, Johnny Somali, tourist fella from America, who just started.
Oh, he's an asshole. Yes, he's a real asshole like that. Although I think he's facing prison in Korea at the moment
for 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I mean, it's one of the things where like, the idea of Japan having massive immigration, it just is anathema because if anyone knows anything with Japanese people, it's that they are very insular people. Like they're not massive fans of foreigners. They'd like you if you're a tourist, especially from somewhere like Britain, because us Anglos and the Japanese are. It's kind of like we're brothers from other mothers. I don't know how to.
Yeah, it's worth reminding people that although World War II was like not at all good in terms of Anglo-Japanese relations. Much earlier than that, in 1902, Britain, her first foreign alliance was with the Japanese. And until we abandoned it as a result of the Washington Naval Treaty in 1922-23, the Japanese were extremely good allies to Britain. Like in World War I, for example, they sent destroyer flotillas into the Mediterranean to help the Royal Navy. They escorted convoys of Australian and New Zealand soldiers to the Middle East. They were very good allies of Britain until we insulted them by getting rid of the alliance as a result of the Washington Naval Treaty, which I have done quite a few streams about and I am no fan of. So if you're interested in the Washington Naval Treaty, you can find various streams I've done on it, and I'm not a fan. I think Britain made a very big error by signing up to that. But, there we go. Adaman, did you have a first topic? Sorry, Mitch, I beg your pardon. Carry on.
I was just saying, only as a small point to end off. One thing, like if you study Japanese history, one thing you notice that rhymes a lot with English history. Like certain battles and certain periods are very similar to our own history. Like so, that's why I got strong affinity for Japan, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see some of the samurai wars being similar to sort of Wars of the Roses and stuff like that in England, for sure. Yeah, I agree. Adam, did you have a first topic for this evening?
Yeah, actually, I just saw a tweet that kind of disappointed me slightly.
Sorry, I was just great. You mentioned Johnny Somali and those nuisance streamers in Japan. Can you share my? I'm trying to share my screen. Can you see that?
Yeah, hang on a minute. Sorry, I'll put it up.
Yeah, in Japan, they started putting up signs.
There you go.
About the nuisance streamers.
You wouldn't be allowed to put that sign up in Britain, would you?
No, yeah, Japan's not a thing. Who knows? Just not signaling anyone out there. Or there's also a pain on the trains. So here you see you got some monkeys making a noise with the peaceful fox and polar bear. Who knows? Not could be anyone.
Yes, indeed. Sorry, Adam, carry on,
man. So yeah, there's this poll on reform by Find Out Now. I don't know if you talked about this last week. I don't think it was out by then, but I know I saw people talking about it in the Discord. And it's basically the poll. Yeah, it's basically the poll that's shown the largest lead for reform so far. I think it was sitting at 31% or something like that. It was pretty staggering, but I think they also did a model based on that, which showed that reform could get like over 400 seats and Labour could be reduced to about 60. But they released, they kind of got a bit pressured by people. There were certain people having a bit of a cry about them talking about this. So they made some comments on their methodology. And I thought they were somewhat interesting. So the first one they bring up is they bring up differences in engagement, which was kind of we were kind of touching on this a little bit earlier. But they say reform voters are more likely to have low political attention, given many online polling panels. But not us, now represent overrepresent high engagement respondents. This is reducing reform vote share in other polls. So this is what they're kind of implying, is that they think theirs is more accurate because they're saying that they're sort of catching these. I suppose this is like what people used to refer to as like the silent voter. Back in like Trump's first term, that they used to say that the reason he could sort of catch them out is because they had this sort of silent vote of this person that didn't talk about politics. In this instance, they're not so much talking about people who don't talk about politics so much as people who, I mean, they class it as political attention. I mean, I'm surprised lefties haven't grabbed onto this and said, called them low info, but of course, you're talking about people that maybe aren't spending a lot of time in a political arena per se, but are still have a vote and still go out and vote and still have concerns otherwise. The thing is, although they say that, they still essentially show that across all groups for political attention, across all ratings, reform still beats out everyone. It's just that they beat out everyone the highest in the lower information group. They also pointed out that reform supporters are more likely to say they'll vote than supporters of other parties, which kind of does map to my own experience of talking to people. There's a lot of people that cry and complain about reform getting into power or winning councils and stuff like that, but they didn't show up and vote themselves. That you can get all the people out there that are sort of like engaged with what they see on the TV as much as you like, that go out there and scream and rail about fascism, but they don't go out and vote. So ultimately, it's for nothing. And I don't know. I think it's an interesting proposition to at least consider that. Although I'm still kind of skeptical, we do live in an age now where, like, when people were saying that, oh, you know, reform's only got this many seats, no one cares about it, blah 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 blah. And you have to kind of sit there and explain to people, you know, even people that should know better, you know, Fraser Nelsons and people of that sort of thing. Yeah, you kind of have to sit there and point out to these people that, like, every party has had that point at some point. You know, no one would dare say in 1997 that Labour back in the 1910s, you know, or earlier, only got 15 seats, so therefore no one gives a damn about them. It doesn't have a seat at the table. Of course, the difference between then and now is that you can almost create a dialectic of, like, let's say Farage being a prime minister in waiting, as some people have referred to him as, you know, or this party being the future, without having to go through the process of them winning a few more seats at this election and a few more seats at that election. So I do wonder if we are actually going to see, even though I was skeptical of it, this massive swing where, you know, it could be that at the next election, Reform does just get 300 plus seats and sweeps into power within, you know, 2 elections of them, you know, entering the room essentially.
I see we've lost AI. I hope he's going to come back. Yeah, I do. Listen, I do agree with you, Adaman. Although I'm sure you would agree with me and most of the panel. I think that I got issues with reform at the moment. I really do.
Was that report? Was that poll? Was that one of the ones also including the Jezebel party?
Hang on, let me have a quick double check.
Because I saw some. Because that's completely splitting Labour.
Yeah, it does not include Jezebel. It just includes Tories, Labour, Lib Dems, Greens, and Reform.
Yeah, I think that the ones that include Jezebel, because it splits the left wing vote completely. Like Reform just plough through hugely.
Yeah, if the immigrant vote goes to these people mostly, the Labour are fucked basically, and good, because, you know, I have no room for the Labour Party whatsoever.
Yeah, Labour's
always considered them traitors. So.
Yeah, they've relied on the immigrants for a long time. So
yeah, they don't give a shit about the British working class. In fact, they despise them. They're the people they lock up all the time for tweets and stuff.
I mean, even if you go back to the first Tony Blair election, they were already. Yeah, sorry, Mitch, go on.
I would just say, I don't know if you saw that Green Party councillor down Timber Hamlet's way. He's got a massive. What is it? Shove the F off. Shove the F
you,
off.
You useless C. Yeah. Yeah, and then she just clutches at her chest, just terrified. Never had anyone shout at her like that before.
Yeah, literal pearl clutching.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, I mean, this, even in the sort of early Tony Blair years, you could see they were sort of laying the groundwork to have, to have a sort of dependency on foreigners, essentially, because I remember they took a John Major policy, which was funding for, I forget what they called it, funding for like deprived schools, and then Tony Blair's government changed it to funding for urban schools, and then it literally just became like a money block that was employed to schools that were sort of minority white as the years rolled by, which, as far as I'm aware, still exists. No party since has gotten rid of it. But
they wouldn't dare. They'd be called racist, wouldn't they?
Yeah. But it's like, I mean, I had a little bit of a short convo in comments on X with former stream guest Flynn, and he was sort of I think understandably annoyed at the fact that there are sort of people on the right who have a sort of business model which sort of feeds off of them getting angry at and pointing out perceived right-wing failures constantly. And he's like, you know, some of these people just need to learn to take a win as a win, which is like reform. And it's like, yeah, like there's lots of failings with reform. I mean, we've all pointed these out too, but it's like, you know, it's like I remember back in the UKIP days, people saying to me, "Oh, UKIP's just a protest vote," and it's like, there's nothing inherently wrong with a protest vote, though. Like a protest vote has a lot of benefits to it, you know. And it's like first off, if reform come in on a mandate, they're going to have to do something. If they plan on just failing at that mandate, it's not kicking the can down the road. It's not containment. That's literally just going to be the pot boiling over in an extreme way. So it's like either way, whether they come in and they're a total failure, or they come in and and they actually have to do something, no matter what, you're driving the immigration issue just deeper and deeper, plunging it further into the heart of, like, you know, Whitehall and the rest of it. You know, you're taking an issue which they still to this day are trying to ignore, and you're strapping them to the chair and having their eyelids peeled back. You know, it's still potentially just I think a good thing. I mean, I'm still going to rock up and vote for reform at the next election. It's just the way it is.
Well, what if someone better comes along?
They would have to gain a lot of ground. 4 years. Yeah, they'd have to gain an enormous amount of ground in a very short amount of time, and I don't see that happening.
That's my feelings entirely. And I mean, I will hold my nose and vote reform at the next general election, almost certainly, unless, as Tharium says, something better comes along and makes a huge amount of progress.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a member of two things that I hope come along, which is Homeland and Restore, but I kind of actually see both of them as fulfilling the same job, even though they're going about it different ways. But you know, I mean, Homeland is probably like a decade away. I mean, they admit this themselves.
Yeah.
And Restore is obviously for the moment it's a political movement. It's a pressure group.
It's a pressure group. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I paid my 20 quid and joined Restore Britain, and I really like Rupert Lowe, and I like the collection of people he's got backing him. So yeah, you know, if you're British, you've just got to hope for the best at the moment. But I do agree with you, Am, and I mean, come the next general election, I'll probably end up holding my nose and voting reform, even though I can't stand Zia Yusuf at all.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about Vivek of in America, again, becoming governor of Ohio. So, and it's like a situation with Vivek, kind of what happened over here with Zia. So, I'm a bit black-pilled about Zia Yusuf currently.
Something I notice on every video with Yusuf, any sort of thing puts out, there's loads of people always in the comments going, "I just don't trust this guy." There's just something like about him. There's people don't like, and we are attuned to like pick these things out. Like people can, like you don't know what it is.
Tharium, look who he's worked for since he left university. You know, it's like there's every kind of red flag you could think of from a right-wing nationalist point of view.
I think even people who aren't like don't know any of that, they're still just getting the "I don't trust this guy" feeling from him. And like we are attuned. People will generally be able to tell something's off with psychopaths. And it's just, and just him, like, and he's got like these creepy dead soulless eyes and stuff. Just people don't like him. There's a lot of,
but it's like James in chat said, they're just a safety valve for the state. Now, if I may, I think the issue with this, I get the logic, but I think the problem with this is that we're a little beyond the safety valves, a little bit. You know, I mean, I will quote, I will draw on the wisdom of the great radio show host James O'Brien, right? And he makes this comment on his radio show, I think a couple of months ago at this point, quite a while back, and he says, "Oh, you know, so what if they you know, stop immigration, meaning us, the far right, it's not actually gonna make anyone happy because all those people are still here. The transformation of those towns has already happened, and it's like, yeah, actually, first thing he's ever said that I think I've agreed with.
Deportations, mate. Deportation.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, you know. So it's like a safety valve might have worked before the Boris wave, but we're kind of past the point of safety valves now. I'm sure the state thinks they can deploy a safety valve and they can do all the same strategies, because you see it everywhere. You see it with the police response in Epping. You see it everywhere that this is going on. You know, they just think they can just close their eyes and keep screaming, things can only get better, and just pretending that it's still sort of 2003, but it's not. And you know, the curtain's fallen. We've seen you know what's going on back there. You can't just sort of hastily pull it up and censor the entirety of the internet and pretend it didn't happen, as they're currently trying to do.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, and it's like, so I mean, maybe I'm giving the British public a little too much credit, a little bit, but I have some faith in them. I generally still do have a little bit of faith in the populace at large, especially the British one.
People are waking up. They are. It's taking a long time, but they're getting there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much that it's a waking up, is it? But it's like a preference cascade. You know, you can have just random conversations with anyone, anywhere about immigration. It's in a way that just never would have happened. Even like 5 years ago, any time prior to lockdown.
People know it's bad, and it's against the interests of the real people of Britain.
Yeah, so I mean, I know guys of my age group or younger who they'll just say a casual comment like they only prefer English taxi drivers, for example, and they don't bother elaborating what they mean on English for obvious reasons. But everyone knows what you mean by English. You know, you're not meaning Abdul. It's one of the things where, and the other thing was, I remember like 10 years ago when I was at secondary school, I had like this, what was it, some diversity thing that they tried to force upon us. And basically, when it came to Islam, like, the vast majority of the room, there was only one student and the teacher arguing for Islam, whereas everyone else was either against it or perhaps they were against it, but they didn't speak up too much about it. But like, that was like 10 years ago where, you know, I mean, it's probably just because I live in West Midlands. We live in closer to proximity to Islamic populations who are just a right menace to deal with. Even just like one family, like for example, the local corner shop to me, I want to buy a Pakistani family who've been here as long as I can remember, and they can't speak English that well, even though they're surrounded by English people. It's just
they don't bother. Yeah.
Tharium, did you have a first topic for this evening? Well,
we could go on from that a bit. We had a couple of polls come out about Islam in the UK, didn't we?
We did.
53% think it's incompatible with British values completely. And I think 93% Reform voters don't think Islam has a place here. I don't know what that means for. Yeah, I don't know what that means for Mohammed Yusuf trying to get as many Muslims into the party as possible, though.
You also talk about Muslim.
It's a fake thing, that is. Sorry.
What was it? Farage has also been platforming massively that, like, I've just seen all over my social media regarding reform. It's just massively pushing that Muslim woman from London way, that Layla Cunningham. She's come out of nowhere. A month ago, I didn't even know she existed. Now she's all over reform social media. It's just nothing organic about this.
I think one of their Welsh guys is another Muslim as well. They're top people in Wales. They're clearly being pushed.
I did like Tharium, Sargon of Akkad, a post on X, on Twitter, where he said, I think it was Lee Anderson, his constituents are protesting about immigrant hotels. And there's no sign of him supporting them. And you would think if reform were what they say they are, shouldn't he be there supporting his constituents?
I would be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the police the police are going to be monitoring. You see, they're going to have a new squad they're going to be setting up to monitor any anti-migrant posts on social media, of course.
As I said at the beginning of this stream, if you are a British person in Britain, you need a VPN these days.
Yeah, no, my IP address is in America, by the way. Any GCHQ listening, that's where I am. Yep.
Does the VPN actually get around the censorship by the Online Safety Bill?
Yeah,
yes, VPNs do get around that, Adam, and they don't protect your identity if the British government is interested enough in you to dig. Of course they don't. I mean, come on, be real. But yes, you can get around the Online Safety Bill with a VPN quite easily, and I would advise all British people to get one because it's not about pornography. But I don't want to get ahead.
Well, I mean, the funny thing is that like, of course, Morgoth was tweeting earlier today. Morgoth, who was on here last week. For people who weren't aware, you can go back and watch last week's Splendid Isolation. And he was, I think he was kind of taking a sort of solemn, half-hearted victory lap, because I remember him specifically having arguments with certain individuals who are sometimes referred to as the Tory boys, who were selling the Online Safety Bill when it was pushed by the Tories as wouldn't you know, just a Tory policy that's come back to life under Labour in the same way that all those Labour policies came back to life under the Tories with David Cameron.
It's almost like we got a uni party, isn't it?
But of course, and I remember him having arguments with these people, and they were trying to say, no, it's all a good thing because you need to protect kids from pornography. And he's like, right, but it's not going to be used for that. It's going to be used for this, and this. And of course, we've all been proven sadly right on the long run.
Fell for it again award.
But yeah, I mean, talking about polling, because and to go to my safety valve thing earlier, like there was we talked about this at the time because this blew my mind, and this was back in August last year. So before Southport, and there was this set of polls that came out by a group called We Think. And I'm just going to read one of the results from this poll. Right, the question was: xenophobic acts of violence are defensible if the result is fewer refugees being settled in your town. 36% agree.
And they're not refugees; they're economic migrants.
Yes,
that's
a wild stat to me.
Yeah, that was early August, wasn't it? Like back when the rights were full peak.
Yeah.
Can I just answer Black Pigeon Pilled here?
Yeah.
Listen, for first things, Black Pigeon Pilled, you're obviously not British because I am not from the north. I was born in London. And I like Farrium, he's my mate, and I ain't going to do anything to him. So you're being very stupid.
Like 77 Brigade, that's the PSYOPs, isn't it?
77 Brigade are the shiny asses who sit on computers and they call them a brigade, but I bet there's not even a company of them really. And they sit on their shiny asses on computers, lying to people about what's going on in
I'm not sure
Ukraine,
I'm not sure what of their ops I've fallen for.
No, I've never noticed you fall for any of their ops. Some of your former pals and my former pals in the Worcester Club have, but I haven't noticed you do
that. I don't know, but I imagine a good number of them are women. I'm just going on a hunch.
And the ones who are men are probably gay, but
actually, yeah. Do you know how I imagine them? If any of you have seen like one of the recent John Wick films, if any of you've seen them, you have like these like cohort of women who are like operators, and they have like this really like this 1950s sort of look, with clothing and hairstyle, but they're just covered like in tattoos. I saw one of those women. I saw one of those women.
I know what you mean.
I saw one of those women today, like in real life. Like she was wearing like a 50s sort of dress, and she had like the bun and the hair, but she was like covered in tattoos. And I was actually I actually felt like sick, like I was going to throw up. It was actually very visibly disgusting. It was kind of like seeing a tramp taking a shit in public. It felt really, really grotesque and obscene, and that's how and it sort of put me in a sort of black pill mood for today. But yeah, sorry, that was a bit of a distraction. But my point is that's how
women shouldn't get tattoos. Let's
No.
be honest, and they certainly shouldn't get tattoos you can see when they're dressed.
Mhm.
Oh God, yeah. I mean,
I think more women than men have tattoos these days.
Probably. Women get tattoos for the most silly reasons. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the tattoo industry play on their the need for like arty fartsy, sort of stuff. There's good like propaganda for that, and yeah, it's all love and do you know what I really hate is it's every like when you with like tattoo artists, everything's about like love and feelings. It's just like it's like post Diana death wank. It's ridiculous. I fucking hate it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Adamant, you carry on, mate, because we went a bit distracted there.
Oh no, I think
Sorry.
I think the subject was kind of done, to be honest.
Okay, in that case, Tharium, did you finish your subject?
I think so. Yep.
AI, did you have a first subject for this evening?
Well, first of all, I will say I've got a pretty interesting interview lined up next week, but I was going to talk about the maybe just like which is relating to the protesters. There's a chap on the ground who's been recording and he's going to be coming on, so I'm looking forward to that on my channel hopefully at some point next week. And but I will just briefly talk about the hotel protests as large, not just the ones at Epping, but like the ones at Norwich today, Canary Wharf at the Britannia Hotel, and also in Leeds. And I mean, looking at it now, I think what's been quite wholesome about it overall is the fact it has been local and that you haven't had the political grifters, the grift networks turn up. I know there was the Homeland Party in Epping, but from my understanding, the chap who was in that was actually a local anyway. It was like a local
Callum,
chapter. Yeah, Callum. Yeah, he was a local chapter. I know that Tommy Robinson was asked to go there, and he was going to, but then he made a sort of correct decision. But unfortunately, and as someone as James put in chat there, it does appear that like that sort of like that idiot from UKIP, that the Italian sounding guy was up in Glasgow, and he was sort of grifting on that, and it is sort of like I just want to sort of hope that this does keep its sort of true like local community root about this. And I actually think in many ways, if you look at what happened with Essex, they caught the police, the chief inspector lying on camera about bringing in protesters. But by the way, the people who organise, if you weren't aware, it's the trade unions. So it's like Unison and Unite. All those people, it's coordinated through Unison Unite, which is a part of the Labour Party. And so the way the government they can't use they don't just use the police force, but this is basically their sort of like violent wing, their violent thuggish wing that they can use on the population. And hence why you see that coordination between them and the police. And I think the reaction has been I with like that Green Party councillor who got humbled pretty much by the voice of millions of people around the country by just calling her a stupid effing cunt.
Which she was.
Yeah, which she was, because she was saying ridiculous things. In my mind, when he said it, it's what it's what I think all of us were thinking. I think anyone with who was watching this saw this. And looking at it in the long term, all it takes is, and Morgoth was right last week, all it takes is for one migrant to pull off a Axel Rubicabana incident, and the whole thing just blows up.
They
and
are,
I think
they are
the
shitting themselves about
yeah,
because that's going to happen. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is, because we import these people and we know what they are, but
and the chief constable of Essex is now, I think it was yesterday, he came out and said, actually, no, I want all the asylum seekers out of like his area, his patch, because he doesn't want to have to deal with what's happening.
They should deport them, and then he wouldn't have to.
Well, yes, and he, from my understanding, from there's a chap I saw an interview on, I think it was on Talk Radio or something. He was a former police commander that I forgot his name now, but he was basically saying that this guy is known in the police force as being like the modern police officer, in the sense of massive progressive, into diversity. He's like a very, very worst aspects of modern policing all rolled into one, and even he's had to bend to what has happened in Epping and places like that. And so I am hopeful that local community action and that pressure, because the councillors, of course, voted to close the hotel down. The councillors felt the pressure, and on a local thing, that was good. And if a Homeland Party, or if it was some other group that coordinated, good on them. That's all I can say.
Thoughts, gentlemen, on that?
Yeah, I think the local, it all being local, is definitely the way forwards, because you can't. It's so hard to attack just local mums.
I was going to say that one of the things I've noticed about these protests is there are lots, and I mean lots, of women, like both mothers and daughters and people like that. Really are.
Yeah.
Well, just to cut back very briefly. Sorry to pop back to my own subject from a minute ago. But actually, one of the other things that polling data showed, which I forgot to bring up, was that actually women are Reform is the most popular party among women. Actually, I know that. What's his name? The professor, the mad professor, who's actually a theocracy, who's actually a theologian, I should say. Dutton. Even he's touched on this, that there's a point where you get like a critical mass where you suddenly get like the hotties coming in, as he calls it.
Yeah.
But the thing is that even if you look at Southport, I mean, Southport was still largely a local thing. I remember people specifically making the argument at the time that it was all people coming in, and I sat there with someone and I went through, I think it was the Liverpool Echo. They did a write-up on everyone that was arrested for thing, and I went through like the first 70, and I think there was only 5 of them that had come from further than like 30 minutes away.
So all locals, really.
Yeah, and of course even the police ended up acknowledging that. I think in their report much later on, they said, "Oh no, it was actually a local issue. It was it was a local phenomenon," and they were kind of like shaken up by this.
3 toddlers like brutally murdered.
Yeah,
what a surprise.
Yeah, and but the thing is, they called that misinformation, and people, it's still being repeated to this day that it's troublemakers coming in from outside the area, and I mean, I saw someone.
That's probably 77 Brigade.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's
That-
the sort of thing they do.
I mean, that is the go-to tactic of liberals and the regime at large. Whenever you even have it with even I've seen it with Tory councillors in Essex who said the people that or the people the thugs that turned up have nothing to do with Essex or the local area, and it's like, well, all these people who are getting angry, if they're not from there, they're not from here. Where are they from? They're the fucking moon or something.
Well, I mean,
You know,
let's be honest. I mean, when you're looking at Epping, right, which is just to the east of London, it's a beautiful forested area. It's got pretty high house prices, but it's also the area that very large numbers of original indigenous Londoners moved to when their
Cockneys.
boroughs in London were overtaken by
the real refugees.
They're the real refugees in places like Epping. They're the real refugees. They've already been forced out of where they lived in London, and so now they're in places like Epping, and it looks like they've had enough. And good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we had a few Cockneys around where I am growing up, and they always used to talk about, about the Bow Bells and that sort of thing, the Cockney law. And I tell you, when I was younger, another little tidbit about man deep law. I used to do bicycle racing when I was a teenager, and I was quite good at it as well. Anyone that's met me since will think, well, fucking hell, where did that athlete go? But I went to Bow for a race. And I got sort of dropped off, and oh god, what a shock that was! Like that was like Spot the White Man town in London, and it was a dump.
I tell you what's also funny, Armin, is that people like my dad, who was born in 1933, and he was a Cockney, but he wasn't officially because he was born in Bermondsey on the other side of the river. Actually, Camberwell, if I'm going to be completely accurate. But he used to go hop picking for his holidays when he was a young chap. And of course, that was mostly in Kent. And that was a traditional working class Londoner Cockney holiday, was you'd go hop picking for a week or two. And
my grandmother's family used to do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There is actually, I forget the name of the place. There's a farm museum in Kent here, which if anyone's ever in the area, you can go to. And they still have, they have it set up as it was when people used to go as of a family holiday and go hop picking. I cannot remember the place. They had, there was a show. Yeah, there was a show that was recently brought back up on the TV again, but they put a black guy in it. It was a show that used to have Catherine Zeta-Jones in it, but I can't remember.
I know what you mean.
Darling Buds of May.
Darling Buds of May. Yeah. They have the truck from that show there as well. But it's a good little day out if anyone's ever in the area.
Needless to say, in the Darling Buds of May, which is set years ago in Britain, there were no black guys basically, but
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. It is. All right, I guess we should talk about the online harms bill before we close. The most ridiculous thing I've seen so far was that the British government was censoring somebody's historical posts about Richard the Lionheart, according to the online harms bill. That's the most ridiculous one I've seen so far.
Richard the Lionheart.
You know what?
Richard the Lionheart.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be cancelled these days, definitely.
I'm guessing
Well, he did beat Saladin quite.
Yeah, can't have that.
I'm guessing because I noticed the first things I saw was the protests in Leeds at the hotel, and there were I think it was because of the term crusader was the reason why that word triggers whatever algorithm or something, and that's why Richard the Lionheart. Because I did a test. I typed in Beaumont, for First Crusades, and I also had a maybe an old tweet where someone was talking about the First Crusade and it was blanked out. So I think the word crusade has been, is a no-no word.
It's been cancelled, is it?
Yeah, that particular post was talking about siege of Acre. I think that's how you pronounce it, where the prisoners were executed, and that post went into some detail about the method of execution. So you also have the word Saracen and the head put together.
But this is why, you see, you're not allowed. This is why, if you're a sensible person, every time a Western lefty liberal globalist government says, "Oh, we want to protect your kids from porn," you will realize that all lefty liberal globalist governments actually love porn because it tends to keep young men quieter and calmer.
Well, I mean,
so they love porn. They have nothing against it at all.
Well,
and they have no interest in defending your children against it. I mean, Britain, hang on a minute. If Britain really wanted to defend children, they'd do something about immigrant, mainly Pakistani rape gangs rather than porn, wouldn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Where are all the top pornographic companies based?
Well,
America, right?
Well, maybe not actually, but yeah.
I thought it was America. Am I wrong on this?
It's in California. And what do they all have in common?
Oh, I couldn't possibly notice.
Be careful.
I got into a conversation with a friend of mine over drinks, who's actually been in this chat a few times, and I was this was like back in the day, and I'm like, no, dude, listen, and I'm like explaining it to him, and so I get up like famous pornographers, and I start going through, you know, their background, their early life section,
early life checks, yes,
and one of the things that I came across that was really weird. Oh, I forget her name. She was a famous like porn person back in the day. I don't want to say star or actress, but she now owns her own company. I can't remember her name now. But she converted to Judaism.
Well, that's odd.
Yeah, really odd. Like even when you found ones that weren't of that group, quite a few of them had just converted to that group.
There's quite a few of them that actually anglicized their names. They just changed their names to, because for obvious reasons, so they don't. And look, without going down the rabbit hole, I think porn should be banned. Or it should be the power of it should be taken away from those guys in California, because it ultimately does harm. I mean, as you said, Andrew, it does harm. It does harm.
Anyway, I don't disagree with you, but look what the British government has done within 24 hours of this bill becoming law. They haven't done anything about porn. What they have done is censored every single protest outside a mass immigration centre.
Oh yeah,
that's what they've done. They don't give a shit about porn. Really, they don't. It's an excuse.
Andrew, remember the anti-terror legislation after 7/7? It never targeted any radical Islamic preacher. It targeted the likes of the BNP and people of that affiliation.
Well, that's on Duke's point. Like,
that's my point. Yeah, it's like they don't give a shit about porn, mate. Listen, if they want to ban porn, great, let them do it. But they never will, because porn helps keep your young white Anglo-Celtic men quiet.
It doesn't seem like now's a good time for them to be doing that. Okay, now we've got these guys. Oh, what? You've just taken away my porn? Okay, I'm gonna go join these protests then.
I mean, I will say that they I was talking about like leftists mythologizing earlier, but that's also a bit of another mythology they push for. Like minorities, both in this country and outside of it, are horrifically porn-brained.
Oh yeah.
It's like with the whole incel thing when they, when you dig into the stats, especially if you break it down on ethnicity or race, like a vast majority of white kids are not really going anywhere near this stuff, and almost everyone that is like black or Indian or brown or something.
Well, and also like there's there's like the like you said, like there's plenty of people who can watch the odd bit of porn and just move on, and then there's like the porn brain lot that you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's true. Aaron, you haven't said anything for a while, mate. Any comments on what we've been talking about?
Yeah, for me, this isn't surprising, and it's also not something. It's just the sort of the end point of the restriction on freedom of speech we've had, and sort of restrictions on freedom of expression we've had since New Labour, and they passed the Online Communications Act of 2003, and this is sort of the final end point of it. And since then they've been using that claim of pornography and protecting children all the way back then. So, whilst not doing anything at all about it. So, frankly, I'm not surprised they use that as the claim. But
if they wanted to protect our children, they'd do something about the so-called in air quotes grooming gangs. They wouldn't be all that worried about online bullshit.
I mean, it's not just the rape gangs. Like any sort of odd paedophile, like Hugh Edwards and stuff. Tiny sentences, minimal sentences, always slaps on the wrist.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, it was Jenna Jameson converted to Judaism. That's the one I was thinking.
What a surprise!
But I've got the name of probably like the main, like who's considered like the father of porn. Al Goldstein.
Who could tell? Yeah. Well, yeah. But the thing is, this was never about protecting children. It was always to gather a database, because in order to do anything online as a British person now, you basically have to dox yourself. That's what it's designed to do. By the way, there's a bill going through the Australian Parliament as we speak that does exactly the same thing. And, I'll end up having to use a VPN. And any British person these days who doesn't use a VPN, I'm sorry, but I can't save you anymore. You just have to use a VPN, because otherwise you're never going to hear the truth about anything, which is, of course, what the British government wants. And that makes no difference if it's the Labour Party or the so-called, in air quotes, Conservatives. I mean, they're exactly the same. They're a uniparty. But yeah, this was never about protecting children. It was always about gathering a database of everyone in the UK, so that if you go online, the government can find you really easily. I mean, if they want to, badly enough, they can find you anyway. But, with no effort, basically. That's what this was always about. It was not about protecting children. And only morons ever thought it was about protecting children, to be honest with you. Because basically, when my little boy was small, he wasn't allowed to go on a computer when I wasn't watching him.
Mm-hmm.
Or my wife wasn't watching him,
That was one of the lines that was trotted out about how it's been the responsibility of parents to monitor this stuff. Now the state is it's going to be on platforms like.
But even
it's like, but that state,
all the major browsers, right? All of them,
obviously
set a child-friendly thing on it that won't let you go to anything like that. They all have that, and they've had it for years.
I know. I was just like trying to say, like, this is the state going. We can't have parents responsible for parenting.
No.
Like, why not? Jesus, but
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I know who I blame for all this.
Go on, anyway.
Well, no, I'm just gonna leave that there in the ether.
Okay, all right, yep.
Oh, okay. A certain people. Okay, fair enough. I don't know. I tell you what, I don't disagree with you, because you can't, because there is so much truth behind what you say, but it's not just them. It's not.
I mean, to be fair, yeah, it's not just them, but at the same time, the more I get older, the more I understand, Saint Jerome, Saint Dionysius of Alexandria, all these figures. I was like, yeah, I understand now.
Black Pigeon Pilled is saying, what do I think about Kanzuk? I'm a supporter of Kanzuk. If Britain, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand had based their own people governments, if they
also Canada needs to drop that shitty flag and go back to the the real
Canadian
flag.
Yep. Yeah, no, they need to go back to the old Canadian red ensign, which was actually a nice flag, but yeah.
The modern Canadian flag looks like a store brand or what you get at like a petrol station on the side of the road. It looks horrible.
100% agree with you.
It's designed for neon lights, and change the anthem back.
Most of the good-based Canadians I know, and I do know some, they all like the old red ensign. They think that was the real Canadian flag.
Yeah, I actually have noticed that because they have they call it Canada Day, but of course the real name for it is Dominion Day. And I've noticed this year, particularly more Canadians refer to it as Dominion Day and flying the Union Jack during Dominion Day.
Well, I mean, look, if you want to separate yourselves from the USA,
good way to do it.
Canada's heritage is British. There's a reason Nova Scotia is New Scotland. It's kind of British. And in due course, our history streams are going to do a stream on the War of 1812, which actually went on from 1812 into 1814, and included 3 American invasions of Canada, all of which were repulsed. But we'll talk about that when we do that stream. But yeah, this online harms thing, I'm sorry, it's like you've got to start growing up, guys. The government never wants to protect your children from porn. No. What they want to do is they're happy for rape and so-called grooming gangs to be all over the country, and they never do a national inquiry on that because that might be embarrassing. They're happy to teach your 5-year-old kids that they should be trans. They're happy to do that. And you think they're going to protect them from porn? Really? They love porn. It's nothing to do with porn. It's to do with censorship.
I will say there was some feminists
free speech.
On the Labour. I will say there was some feminists on the Labour side who. So yeah, I would say there was some feminists on the Labour side who go, "Oh well, feminism is men exploiting women." Blah blah blah. That's kind of so some of them probably think because you got to factor that. The MPs, who vote for this, most of them are thick as pig shit. They don't really read it. They probably are thinking, "Oh well, this is going to ban pornography." Now, if you were to tell them, "Oh yeah, you can use it to shut down your political opposition," they'll probably also vote for it. But that's probably what it has to be sold to them. Some of them as, "Oh well, you have to we're clamping down on pornography," and I sincerely believe it. But yeah,
100, Mitch, 100. Lothar Sheffield is saying Nova Scotia and Newfoundland didn't join Canada until it was actually 49, but it was Newfoundland, not Nova Scotia. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and
sorry.
As well.
Yeah. But yeah, this was never about protecting kids from porn. It was exactly what the government immediately used it for, which, Morgoth, who was on here last week, pointed out in a tweet some hours ago that within 12 hours of this becoming law, the British government was banning people from showing tweets about the protests outside migration centres. That was what it was always really about. It had nothing to do with stopping porn. And
I mean,
anyone
the
who
interesting.
thought it did was an idiot.
Well, the interesting thing about this origin of the bill is originally there was a girl, like 12, 13, who killed herself. And it was because of like online bullying, right? And messaging and all that. And that's the origin of the bill. I think this was under like the Tories.
Yeah, you're
And
right.
then there was like, yeah, and then there was like some like sexual, there was like some killing or some sort of sexual rape or something like that. And the guy was said he claimed he was addicted to porn. And so the narrative shifted to that. So like even this bill, the origin story of this bill is dubious. And I remember when hearing about the like the father of the daughter and everything, he was being sort of like pushed as a mouthpiece for this bill. I remember, I think a couple of years back, hearing it, I was like, yeah, this is just another form of censoring the opponents. That's what this is going to just come down to.
Well, I will tell you on my Twitter AI on X, I reposted a survivor of one of these so-called grooming gangs, and she actually posted, "If I get killed, it's one of these 6 men who've killed me because I've named them." And this is a young lady on X who, as a 12 or 13-year-old, was repeatedly raped by all these Pakistanis. Online safety bill about that, boys, it just ain't. Trust me.
Also, just to put a black pigeon peeled, the real name of that Bonnie Blue character that again, is sort of made her way into the mainstream.
Careful, AI, we're on YouTube. Please don't get my channel busted.
Well,
I mean, I hate that woman. I know who you're talking about, and I detest her. She's a scumbag, but don't name her on my channel, mate.
Okay, basically, the name isn't a very English name, let's say.
Yeah, I can believe that. I can believe that.
Yeah, it's
Oh, listen,
again, sort of yeah.
If you can be a girl, a young woman, on a stream with like 150 blokes lined up outside your house, many of them very diverse, and though you think those 150 blokes ought to be able to do what they want to do, and you think that the guys beyond the first one are good guys, then you've got big problems, if you ask me. I'm sorry, you just have. You've got big problems. And like, thank God I don't have a daughter, basically.
I mean, the thing that is, it's like you have this sort of moralizing shock horror stuff, and this Bonnie Blue is a good thing. I only heard about her because of it being like from Facebook normies, because she was on like this morning on ITV. If you actually look at if you look at the origin story of it, she did like radio and ITV, and then she did all the disgusting acts. The government, the regime pushed her. They pushed her to the forefront of and her behaviour to the forefront.
Listen, I've got to tell you, I am not the most prudish guy in the entire world. I'm not. But I could never do an orgy because I don't like other naked men. And I'm never going to do sloppy seconds. I'm just not going to do it. All right? I'm just not. I'm sorry.
It's the thing there is, Andrew, we're not Greeks. We're not Greeks or Italians. We just can't do it.
Well, I think that's a bit harsh to many Greeks and Italians, but all right. I think there are many good Greeks and Italians, so, I was once very fond of a Greek friend She was in the Greek Navy, but only serving on land, of course. But she was damn cute in Crete. Nice place. But I don't think she was in any of that sort of thing. So there you go.
Well, maybe not the Greek one. I think it's the sort of was it more boys and stuff.
Oh yeah, but I mean, even that's exaggerated AI, as I'm sure you know, because I know you like history.
Yeah. I mean
yeah.
that myth was basically created by like the Romans just to have a dig at the Greeks.
It was,
Yeah, I mean,
but it wasn't totally true. I mean, the Greeks were not as bad as even stuff like we'll be told that the what's the sea in Greece that had the sacred band? Someone on here will know.
Ionian or Aegean or
yeah, it was one of the Greek seas had a sacred band, and I can't remember where they came from now. It will come to me. But anyway, they were supposed to be gay. No evidence of this whatsoever. And of course, we constantly hear this about the Spartans. And again, there's actually very little contemporary evidence of this. It's mostly just made up shit.
Well, they've done it with Alexander the Great as well. You know, with his companions. Yeah, they did same shit. Yeah, there's like no evidence, and even if he did, so what? So what?
Well,
even if he did, so what?
I don't see the historical evidence that he did, but okay.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was a bit more than that.
By the way, it was the Sacred Band of Thebes I'm thinking of.
Oh, right.
Richard Hughes, thank you. Thebes, yes, it was. But there's no real evidence that they were gay, by the way. This is something that's been made up by later people. And as AI correctly said, the Romans used to like to do it because the Romans used to like to call all Greeks tunic lifters. So, you know.
Yeah. I probably a bit of like petty like Roman nationalism within the empire, because there was a point where many in Roman society didn't like the Greeks, viewed them as a bit of a nuisance.
Well, the culture was seen as higher, but the military wasn't as strong.
Yeah,
and I mean, you will know this, and I know Tharium and Ammon will. And probably Mitch and Aaron too, that in the 1940s and 50s, you had people who I don't much like Macmillan, thinking Britain could do that to America. You know, we could become the Greece to America, which was equal bullshit. But there you go.
Well, yeah, I mean, it worked within the Roman Empire in one political structure, but I mean, technically, if you look at a map of the ethnic, like the sort of language, linguistic, and cultures of the Roman Empire, I mean, the Greeks by a plurality were dominant just because of the legacy of Alexander.
And the whole of the Eastern Empire was always Greek speaking, which is why that's what Byzantium became.
Yeah, so that was the commonality. I mean, I've actually got a book. It's a novel which I highly recommend. It's called it's by a chap called James Mace. I don't know if anyone's heard of James Mace.
No.
It's called Soldier of Rome: A Rebellion in Judea, Book 1 on the Great Jewish Revolt, and it basically follows several characters like Vespasian, the Magister Militarium for Caesarea, whose name forgets me, and also one of the Sanhedrin, and I think even one of Paulianus, who was like his second, and stuff. And it basically starts when Nero exiles Vespasian for falling asleep during one of his recitals. And
don't blame him either for falling asleep. I mean, yeah, fair enough, guys. All right. Yeah, we did listen. There is lots of good ancient Greek and Roman history out there. I'm a big fan of the Romans. I'm a fairly big fan of the ancient Greeks. But yeah, worth checking out some of that stuff.
Yeah, one thing I found funny was I think it was like this I can't remember where this person was, but basically we're going to so for example you get some English aristocrats back in like the 19th century who'd give their sons names like Alexander or Lysander or Ulysses or whatever, and she was what makes English people want to laugh as Greeks or Romans? And I mean, but the thing was, I think this woman was, I think she was something like East Asian, somewhere in East Asia, like Vietnamese or something. And I'm like, well, it's kind of like, okay, everyone around China does the same with Chinese history. Like, you got like, for example, in Japan, they'll have like his famous historical figures take nicknames based off Chinese legends, and it's like, and I thought that was funny. It was just like how it's saying there's a lot, but it's like, well, I think both will say best. Like you take during the Greek War of Independence, where we got the Elgin marbles. Like Lord Elgin was probably doing more than the Greeks to save ancient Greek heritage. Like so,
Mitch also, of course, the British fleet, with some help from the Russians and the French, also destroyed the Turkish fleet to make sure Greece won. But
I guarantee you, if you were to speak to the average Greek person at that time about pre-Christian Greece, pagan Greece, they wouldn't care. They'd even some of them would view it as evil idolatry.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's like the restored gunpowder would be Parthenon of all places. So look at the Turks.
Yeah, it was a fortress. The Parthenon was used as a fortress for quite a while, and that's why Elgin and the British Museum, like saving the marbles, was a good thing. That was Britain saving stuff, not stealing it, saving it. But yeah, Adaman, you were trying to say something, mate.
No, not me.
Someone was. Who was it?
Were you talking about Greek gay stuff earlier when I came back? Was that what that was?
Yeah. But we were also saying that it was partly a Roman invention, which it was. Because the Romans wanted to say all Greeks were tunic lifters, which is not true.
It is overblown. People like to point to like some of the homosexual iconography on vases, but I mean, of course, obviously, it needs to be pointed out that almost all the vases we have are all from the late Greek period.
Well,
it would be like only having art from like 2010, and then from that analyzing that all of Britain was fake and gay.
Well, even if the thing is that you say about the about the vases and stuff. I think
did they do that? By the way? So,
I think I did see a Messatron once talking about this with the vases and stuff. And there's about, I think he said there's about like 900 and something like remains showing some sort of sexual activity, and there's only like 7 of them or something are gay.
Yeah.
So
it's a smaller. Yeah, and it's like people point out, from the Iliad, Patroclus and Achilles being lovers, but they point to like actual ancient Greeks. No, that's exactly right. They point to actual ancient Greeks saying this, but I can't remember his name, but the Greek philosopher that claimed this lived like 1,000 years after Homer.
Yes,
so it's
absolutely.
it's not. Yeah, and but this is popular culture. This is what people always say about this, and it's like, well, it's the same as this is no different to get gay characters in Shakespeare nowadays being written about by Guardian columnists and stuff like that. It's
So a Greek 1,000 years after Achilles and Patroclus says, "Oh, they were going to love us," but that would be like someone today saying there were black people at Hastings in
Well, they do that.
1966.
Yeah, as they do.
And
try
we
now.
do that, don't we?
Yeah.
Mitch, you know that.
Yeah, and it's like with it's like Romeo and Juliet, right? The main reason that was written was to deter teenage romance, but nowadays it's just everyone just sees Romeo and Juliet as being like the ultimate teenage love was the best thing ever. It's like
It's
no,
real
it was originally made to. Yeah, because the thing was, you'd have let's say teenagers falling in love, and that compromised a lot of traditional like arranged marriages that a lot of the nobility especially would, and that's why Shakespeare would play. It was to deter, people falling in love before arranged marriages, like among the middle and upper classes. So, whereas nowadays everyone thinks the complete opposite about Romeo and Juliet. So things can change, like even just a few hundred years after the fact.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mitch.
I was going to say, I'll let I always speak because I might well touch upon what this new King and Conqueror series.
Oh, I was just going to say, same with Tolkien. The amount of times I've seen people say that Tolkien is a anti-fascist, is a massive prominent figure of anti, sort of a pro-modernist sort of perspective. All these really bizarre claims, and I didn't know this, and I cannot verify this true, but this was that apparently he joined the National Front.
Yeah.
For a brief period.
Mm-hmm.
Is that actually true?
Yes, and he subscribed to A.K. Chesterton's, I think, National Front associated publication.
Holy fucking base!
Yeah.
No, Tolkien was a good guy, but he was also a totally, and Aaron, I'm sure, will agree with this. He was totally an English man.
Mm-hmm.
The Shire was England, basically. That was his first love.
I can actually.
He was, and hang on, guys. He was also a real soldier who, like all of his generation, signed up for World War I. And the only reason he didn't die is he got trench fever. Like nearly all his mates died in World War I. But Tolkien, who did join up, did serve in the trenches in front of the Somme in 1916. He got trench fever, and that's why he survived.
Now, I know that a lot of lefties like to say, well, he was very critical of National Socialism as an ideology.
Yeah.
But was he critical like Evola was? Like, was he critical from the right?
Yes. Yeah, in fact, right, Tolkien loathed both fascism and National Socialism because they were branches of modernity, and he did not like modernity. This is one of the reasons why I am sceptical of the idea that he joined the National Front, because that would be by the branch of modernity.
He kind of did, Aaron, to be fair. I've seen this also.
I doubt it. Just because his concept of politics was so pre-modern in a very good sense that the idea of him joining the National Front seems to me.
I think that was his last resort, mate. That's what I think.
I mean, I always read it that because I heard it from a pretty good source, but I always read it that it was for a short time. I kind of felt like
it wasn't for long. That's true.
And he kind of didn't find it and moved on. It was quite funny actually when sadly when Morgoth got doxxed by HNH. I forget what their actual proper name is. Searchlight Information Services or something. No, they're like their technical name, but
they're government paid.
Yeah. They posted it to Instagram, and there were like a bunch of these sort of like minor bookstagram type people in there banging on about his name. Oh, Tolkien, I bet he's never read Lord of the Rings, this, that, and the other. And yeah, and of course, it was really great to just go to town on these people and be like, well, actually, Tolkien supported like Franco in the Civil War and various other things. It's always a fun time when those people sort of out themselves like that.
I always want to recommend Morgoth's beautiful video, and it's many years old now, where he just is extolling an English oak tree. I always want to, and that's the sort of thing that someone like Tolkien would have loved, because he's right. This oak tree has stood in this county in England for 700 years. And you know what? That should make us like that place, which it should, to be fair.
On a comedic note, the thing about Tolkien was he was hyper autistic whenever he would go for a walk of the woods. So, for example, no family member would ever want to go for a walk with him up the woods. He'd only go by himself. He'd only end up going by himself, because every time he stops by a tree, he just rattle on for like 15 minutes about everything he knows about the tree.
And no doubt the trees would eventually start to talk. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's I don't know about. I don't think it was a national front. Was it? I mean, I heard it was a League of Empire Loyalists, but like Tolkien himself wasn't. I mean, there were times where Tolkien, he just wanted to go back to the old Kingdom of England.
Yep.
It was Jonathan. It was actually Jonathan Bowden who, if you listen, I actually found the clip because I thought it was him. If you listen to, he did a 2-part lecture on Beowulf, and at the beginning of the first part, he actually claimed in there, because he talked about the inspiration from Beowulf into Lord of the Rings, and particularly the scene where Gandalf arrives with Legolas and Aragorn to Rohan and meets with the king who's possessed and all that sort of stuff. And so in that, he made the claim that he joined the National Front for a few months before leaving. But I don't know where he got that information from.
As much as I admire Bowden and I find his lectures interesting, I have just a great deal of skepticism of the idea that not just the National Front, but the idea that Tolkien would have joined any political party, because, as I say in that comment, they are an expression of the political modernity.
He was struggling towards the end because he could see the destruction of England and Britain before him, and he was struggling at the end. You have to realize. I don't believe he would have joined that also because he did not change his principles. This is a man who, when the Catholic Church, remember, obviously Tolkien is a devout Catholic, and when the Catholic Church changes its liturgy from Latin to the local language, so English in this case, his priest is giving the liturgy and doing the responses. Tolkien is responding loudly in Latin. The idea that he would have, at the end, would have somehow turned on the principle of lifetime and joined a political party seems utterly. Listen, Aaron, to me, this is a fairly open question, because some people, I believe, are likely to be telling the truth, say this. And some people like yourself say, no, that would never happen. And you know what? I'm well aware that Tolkien was an absolute traditionalist, but in his very late years, he could see the destruction of Britain before his eyes. You could see it any time after 1946, really, but you could totally see it in Tolkien's later years, which I believe were in the 1970s, he could absolutely see what was going on in Britain and say, yeah, he might have tried
Duke,
to
I don't disagree with you there. That you could see what was going on, but that doesn't. But as I say, you could see that with the Catholic Church with Vatican II, but that didn't make him change his principles. So don't. To me, it seems a complete personality. It would have to be a complete personality change for him to join.
Hang on. Aaron, like you and I are like we've known each other quite a long time now. I could definitely change my political support without it changing myself, if you see what I mean.
I mean, it sounds like it didn't really change him. If it was like just a couple of
that's what I'm trying to get at, Tariam. I don't think it would have totally changed Tolkien to have joined a political party for 3 months. I really don't, to be honest.
He might have given it a shot and realized, it really isn't for him.
That's kind of what I thought. I mean, I could absolutely join a political party for 3 months and it wouldn't change anything basic about me at all. And Tolkien is way more base than I'll ever be.
I will say though, Aaron, I looked up. I've just been like looking up on, with the help of AI, unfortunately, because I wanted to see like what everything that would come up with.
With the help of yourself, AI.
With the help of with the help of myself, an AI search engine. It does appear that excuse me. It does appear that all the algorithm is saying no, he wasn't. He was for diversity, for tolerance, and everything else. And there's quite and unfortunately, it's littered with like essays and papers and journals
from left-wing bastards who claim to know a lot about
the Tolkien Society.
The Tolkien Society. So now it is difficult. I would, if somebody is able to find out, I would like to. It'd be interesting to know if there were, because they actually go further step. Actually, he had nothing to. He never met with the National Front or something. Which I heard that he did like meet with members of the National Front or whether or not he joined with them. I heard that he did meet with
AI and everyone. This is something that all of us should look into because
that's straight up just not true though, because he was on good terms, speaking terms with A.K. Chesterton. So
yes, he was. I know that's correct. Which
is why the search engine doesn't make sense when I'm looking at it.
Because, as you said, AI, it's full of like all of the Tolkien Society, etc. These days is lefty feminist bastards who Tolkien wouldn't have spat on if they were on fire. But that's who they are.
I remember one of their things, and their annual conference was that Saruman was gay because he had a rainbow. He became Saruman of many colors.
Yeah.
Like, you know you're lying. They know they're lying.
Yes.
Push it anyway.
Yeah, the Tolkien was a very based man. He writes about battle realistically because he did see some. I would just put this as something for people to look at. Like, let's look at the history of Tolkien, because the Tolkien Society, as AI correctly says, is completely it's been subverted by commies and socialists who Tolkien would have hated, basically.
As are all these. I mean, I remember Chris Gard telling me about here. Well, maybe I shouldn't go into this. No, I think it's fine. He had like a back and throw with the Kipling Society. And like I think it was like the grandson of Rudyard Kipling was like, oh, did you really have to preserve those poems? And he's like it's such your inheritance. That's this is what your institution is supposed to be here for, But yeah, it's
That
quite
was
tragic, really.
that was
How can
Kipling's own grandson.
Yeah.
Oh, that's bad.
Sorry, if you're in a Kipling society, how can you be like left wing? That's ridiculous.
Yep, totally agree.
Like, what draws you to that? That's totally ridiculous. And that grandson is such a cuck. And then I think he should be reminded. I hope the ghost of his grandfather or great grandfather or whatever comes back and slaps that little bitch across the face. To be honest, I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah, you know, Tolkien's great grandson is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Oh,
Christopher
oh, he-
Tolkien.
Yeah.
Christopher
Yeah.
Tolkien was great. And the grandkids, they don't care. They
Yeah,
give us
good
rings of
shit.
power.
Oh, you know that the rings of power
Rings of
or
power.
whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know. One of the funny things, like I watched like I bootlegged like one episode, so I haven't really like watched it. But apparently, they did not. The estate wouldn't give them the rights for certain names. So, like for the word Hobbit, for example, they can't
Yeah.
say. So instead, they
Yeah.
call them like Blackfoots or whatever. They call them Halflings.
Yep.
They go around, and I think even
And they're
like
led by a black guy.
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
And then they find another
Smarty
tribe.
compl-
They find another tribe in the middle of the desert led by a black woman.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And everyone who gets a bit sick, they leave behind and they get killed.
Yeah, and also Gandalf. The word Gandalf. He
They
can't.
didn't have that.
They called him like the stranger or whatever. So even in the Rings of Power, and I think the grandson or whatever, what he was like there on set and everything to do like the whole press tour and everything. But it was such a bizarre because it was like, okay, so it's the appendices, which was then rewritten. You're doing a story on the appendices, which was rewritten, and we can't mention all like the given names and titles. You don't have like what is this?
Yeah.
What is this?
and it's all about a girl boss who can beat everyone. But yeah. And he's not that pretty. And
Well, you know, she the actress, she looks a lot like Jennifer Salke, the head of Amazon Studios.
yeah, she looks
It's
very
clearly
average.
it's
She's an
very much.
average looking girl. Yeah.
I think it's a self-insert there.
I think you're probably right there.
It's really funny. There was some YouTuber like right before when it was first announced that Amazon were going to do it. I can't remember who it was. He just said, "Oh, they're going to put Galadriel in an armor, set of armor. She's going to have like swords or dual swords, and she's going to be cutting down enemies left, right, and center. And that's going to be that's basically what it's going to be." And then that's exactly what it was.
Meanwhile,
in fact, of course, she's supposed to be a 1,000-year-old woman who is one of the most beautiful women in the world who can just mesmerize men by looking at them. But
she's magical. She's not a sword fighter.
Yeah, she doesn't need to sword fight.
No.
It's another thing about it was so Kate Blanchett was cast or used Galadriel because Galadriel was like meant to be like 6 foot tall or something. Like elvish women are meant to be quite tall, but then this Welsh actress, she's barely 5 foot.
Yeah.
Yes, that doesn't help. But Kate Blanchett, who is an excellent actress, was great in that role. You know, she was. But I also think she's kind of cute. But she was kind of cute, I should say, back in the day. But anyway, yeah. All right, guys. We've gone over 2 hours, as we normally do. Ataman has had to leave us, and I'm always very happy when Ataman joins us. Aaron, what would you like to plug, sir?
My channel is Aaron James Hook, and I cover mostly book topics, but also cover film. And in fact, tomorrow at 10 p.m. British time, myself and Duke are going to be doing a live stream where we discuss each of our top 5 favourite British and Commonwealth war films. That should be really interesting.
Looking forward to that one. Mitch, anything you would like to plug, mate?
Nah, not for me. I was going to mention that King and Conqueror series. Just avoid watching it. I'm not going to watch it because not just the diversity, but also they can't even give a basics. Right? Like, for example, William the Conqueror, right, who is depicted as clean shaven. They put in a guy who's got a goatee that makes him look like Don Quixote rather than William the Conqueror.
It's Jamie Lannister actor, isn't it?
Yeah,
looking
Nikolai
like Jamie
Costa.
Lannister. Yeah.
Gotta
Yeah,
say,
I mean,
I'm never gonna watch any movie which is about the Battle of Hastings in 1066 that
Yeah.
has one black guy in it. Never gonna watch it because it's crap.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, and it's. I mean, the other thing is, like, so William the Conqueror. Another thing about him was he had the stereotypical Norman haircut, shaved sides and back.
Yep.
But the actors didn't have that hairstyle at all. Then you got the guy who plays Howard Godwinson, who's not even blonde, even though Howard Godwinson was always described as a golden haired, and also he had a prominent mustache, as all English aristocrats and warriors did. But none of the
Yes.
English have mustaches. That's a big stickling point for me. Then you got the leather biker kind of looking like outfits. Yeah. Then you got some of the fashion, which looks like they just plucked it from the Tudors.
Yeah, it looks
with,
like 400 years later than it's supposed to be, but yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just it looks like it just. I have to wonder who actually did any research for this. Like I'm not. I mean, I've only got 2 books on my bookshelf about that period of history in terms of non-conquest. I could do a much better job than whoever was advising that.
Yeah, it looks shit, but then, we got the Odyssey film coming up, which looks even bigger shit, to be honest. Sonny Jim in the chat. Never cute, her mouth is too wide. I guess he's talking about Kate Blanchett. I don't think you're right, Sonny Jim, but there we go.
Also, Geralt, I was going to say Geralt of Rivia saying it can't be Gandalf. No, it is Gandalf, because in the end of this second season or third season, whatever it was, they came up with the name, and it's because one of the hobbits says, "You're a grand elf." And goes, grand elf.
God, yeah.
So
The
bad.
standard of writing there is well down where it always was. Tharium, anything you would like to plug?
So just before this stream, I did a stream with Brutus, finding Brutus the English. Just
I know him. I used to stream with him. So did Alman, by the way. But that was a long time ago.
He sent his best wishes.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah, so he's Brutus the English on YouTube if you want to find it.
Well, yeah, go and watch that then, guys, if you want to. AI, anything you would like to plug, sir?
Yeah, just 2 things. So next week I hope to have a good sort of stream interview with someone who's been sort of in the online and sort of news sphere with the protests. So
you said that, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah. So that should be in the works. It should be around Thursday. Around possibly Thursday. It could change depending on what happens next week. So there's that. I also want to pay a bit of tribute. We'll talk about like Tolkien and stuff. And I've told you. I think I mentioned this before, but the origins of the Elder Scrolls video game series like Daggerfall and Morrowind and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, you know those. It originally started as a group of people who wanted to come up with a fantasy game, and they were all like massive Tolkien fans, and they had like their own little group that they would talk about the lore and all that. And from that inspiration, they created the lore for the Elder Scrolls. And one of those figures called Julian Le Fay died this week. Tolkien fan and engineer, sort of computer engineer. So a lot of the stuff that was in the original stuff, like putting the Roman inspiration and the Nordic and all that sort of stuff, was part of that. And he passed away. He is immortalized within the game as the god Julianus in the god that sort of that wizards tend to follow. So he is immortalized in that. But yeah, he died this week, and because he was a Tolkien fan, and he had that interest in sort of that sort of high fantasy, and was able to put it across in something else. I just thought worth remembering, because he was quite deep in the lore there. So yeah.
Well said. AI, your channel on YouTube is?
AI Shire Homelander, do check that out. And whenever the interview or stream is to be aired, I'll promote it on Discord. It'll be on my Twitter as well. So check that out.
Look forward to it, mate. Look forward to it. Yeah, all good. There was something else I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, we have got a couple of super chats. Can I say on entropy? The first one is from Mighty Balzac, who for $5 said, "Fun fact: the Treaty of Waitangi abolished slavery in New Zealand, i.e., the slavery of the Maori by other Maori." And of course, Mighty Balzac is totally true about that. The Maori had slaves until the British Empire stopped them having them, which we quite often did. So thank you very much, Mighty Balzac. We also have a $5 from Giran, who is a big-time supporter of the stream, often gives us support and just says hello. And thank you very much, Garen, for that $5. It's most appreciated, and it will go straight back into running these streams. So yeah, good. Thank you very much, guys. Support for the channel is always welcomed. Please like the stream; it really helps. Like we've had 100, and I think the top one was about 115 people watching the stream. Like it, please, guys. It really does help. Thank you very much to my guests this evening, Adaman, Aaron Hook, Mitch, AI, and Tharium. We hope you enjoyed our takes on stuff. And on Wednesday, we're going to do a stream I'm really looking forward to called Wellington's British Army, which is going to be very much like our stream on Nelson's Royal Navy. And it's going to just be looking at the British Army in the late 17 and early 1800s. It's going to look at Napoleonic weaponry and tactics, but it's also going to look at officers and men's careers and what they could do with their lives. And I think it'll be pretty good, actually. And I hope I get some good guests for it. So as I say, once again, thank you to Alman, Aaron Hook, Mitch, AI, and Tharium. Go well. And I'm going to play us out with you. Where are we? There we go. And that was the Royal Britannia, obviously, but it's the Regimental March of the Royal Norfolk Regiment. And the picture was an officer of the Royal Norfolks defending their colours at the Battle of Sobraon during the Anglo-Sikh Wars. And Sobraon was a messy battle that Britain only won because the British troops were so bloody minded they wouldn't surrender. But anyway, there we go. Again, thank you to Armin, Aaron Hook, Mitch, Tharium, and AI. And we'll see you on Wednesday for our history stream. In the meantime, do not let the bastards grind you down.